and that the accused was on duty at the house on the night of the 16th of June of this year when Terry Selwyn took an overdose of drugs. The accused had responsibility for administering the drugs, but she allowed Terry Selwyn to administer them to himself, with the result that he took too large a quantity and subsequently died.
The case you're about to see is a fictional one, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public. Anna Damon is charged with manslaughter. It's alleged that 18-year-old Terry Selwyn died as a result of her criminal neglect. She's pleaded not guilty. At the time of his death, caused by an overdose of tablets, Selwyn was living in a house run by the Fulchester Foundation. Gudrun Eubank, the foundation's director, has been called to give evidence for the prosecution.
You are Gudrun Eubank of 34 Mona Gardens, near the Fulchester?
I am.
Which I believe is currently the headquarters of the Fulchester Foundation, of which you are the founder and director.
It is, and I am.
And does that foundation provide halfway houses for people recovering from various forms of mental illness?
It does.
Now, Miss Eubank, before we turn to the events of the 16th of June, would you please describe the foundation in a little more detail, what it sets out to do, that sort of thing?
Certainly. If I may go back to the summer of 1967, that was when the idea first suggested itself to me. I was a teacher at my late father Mortimer's school, the Glen Ivet Academy in Eagle Road. It was a private boarding school for young boys, a preparatory school, that is.
Forgive my jumping the gun, Miss Eubank, but isn't Glen Ivet also the name of the house where Terry Selwyn met his unfortunate death?
Yes, my lord, it is the same place. I was about to describe how the Academy became the first of my foundation houses. Well, naturally, I wanted to retain the name.
Refresh my memory, would you, Miss Eubank? Who was Glen Ivet?
Glen Ivet, my lord, was one of Fulchester's most notable sons, a leading philanthropist of the late 19th century and a benefactor of Fulchester Boys High School. I'm surprised you don't seem to have heard of Glen Ivet, my lord.
Ah, I'm afraid I was packed off to Haileybury at an early age. I'm so sorry, Mr. Rockwell.
Not at all, my lord. Miss Eubank, you were telling us about the origins of the foundation?
Yes. In the winter of 1966-67, my father's health began to fail. I was the only other teacher at the academy, which meant that as well as having to nurse Mortimer, I also found myself with extra tuition thrown on my plate. The upshot was that in the late spring, I suffered a nervous breakdown and spent the next few months as a patient at St. Bede's Hospital.
And what happened to the school?
Glen Ivet Academy was forced to close its doors. My father died that summer, and when I came out, I found myself with an empty building on my hands and nothing to do with it.
But in the meantime, you'd had the idea of starting a halfway house.
Yes, I've always been interested in the young, as you can see. And while I was at St. Bede's, it struck me that there were a whole lot of adolescents just lounging around with nowhere else to go. Many of them, it seemed to me, weren't sufficiently disturbed to warrant a stay in a pucker institution. So I decided that a halfway house would be the ideal answer, where they could lead a normal life but still have a degree of supervision. So I went back to St. Bede's, this time as an assistant nurse, and also took a night school course in psychotherapy.
My lord, this is all very interesting, and I don't want to seem impatient, but we are still 10 years away from the events that concern us.
My lord, I think it's vitally important that the jury has a precise idea of the foundation's setup and how the accused fitted into it.
Yes, I do appreciate that, Mr. Rockwell, but I do think we might assume that the foundation is now fully operational and take it from there.
Very well, my lord. So, Miss Eubank, they were back in Eagle Road running Glen Ivet House. And did you later expand the foundation and open another house at Mona Gardens?
Yes, in March 1977. This was a halfway house for older people. My guests, I prefer to call them. I went to live there myself, took all the paperwork along, and Mona Gardens became my new HQ.
And did Glen Ivet House continue to be the province of disturbed adolescents?
Yes, they're known as boarders.
Are they all boys?
Yes, my lord. Well, young men, one should say.
And how many boarders were there in the house at the date of Terry Selwyn's death?
6. 7, before Terry was gone.
Yes. And who's in charge of Glenivert House when you're at Mona Gardens?
A warden plus a deputy. They are responsible for the day-to-day running of the house. I try to give my staff as much autonomy as possible, providing they keep to the rules.
Rules which are set out where?
In the Foundation handbook, the warden of each house has a copy.
I shall be referring to the handbook again in due course, my lord. Now, Miss Eubank, in June of this year, was the accused, Anna Damon, warden of Glenivert House?
She was.
And how long had she been working for the Foundation?
A little over a year.
So she came to Glenivert House around the time you were moving to Mona Gardens?
Just afterwards, she was appointed first as deputy warden.
Tell me, Miss Eubank, what is your selection procedure for these posts?
I place a small advertisement in the personal column of the Times, my lord.
Nowhere else?
No, my lord.
Not even in what one might call the psychiatric trade press?
I deliberately choose not to, my lord. I have found that the people most adept at helping guests and boarders adjust to normal life are not necessarily those with any training in social work.
Really?
Oh, yes. That was what impressed me most about Miss Damon. None of her previous jobs had had any connection with therapy, yet she seemed genuinely concerned to help those whose background was less secure and untroubled than hers. In other words, I was completely taken in by her.
And when did the accused become warden?
In April 1978. The previous warden had left the Foundation, and I saw no reason at that time not to promote Miss Damon as a matter of course.
Did you discuss with the accused her increased responsibilities now that she had become warden?
Oh, yes. I gave her a copy of the handbook. Together we went through it, page by page, section by section, discussing how it applied to Glenivert House and to particular boarders.
May Miss Eubank be shown Exhibit 1, please? Is that the handbook you gave her?
Yes, it has her name inside.
May we please turn to the section dealing with medication?
Yes, if I may quote from it, my lord. Medication is the sole responsibility of the house staff. A warden or deputy must supervise a boarder's medication at all times.
And by medication, you would mean the administration of drugs of any sort?
Oh, yes. The control of medication is, needless to say, of paramount importance.
And would this be so in the case of Terry Selwyn?
Oh, in the case of Terry especially. Terry Selwyn was an orphan. He'd spent all his young life in care, most recently in mental hospitals, as he was a manic depressive. It was the task of the Foundation to provide the boy with a stable home background. In the meantime, he was on a course of the drug tofranil. That's an antidepressant, my lord.
Who prescribes these drugs, Miss Eubank?
The local doctor, my lord, on advice from a consultant psychiatrist. But once inside Glenivert House, in the medicine cabinet, medication becomes the sole responsibility of the staff. We deal with volatile personalities, and it has been known for boarders to use their medication for suicide attempts.
Now, Miss Eubank, would you please describe to the court the events of the 16th of June from the time you became involved with them?
At about 9 o'clock that night, I received a telephone call from Mr. Brad.
That's Desmond Brad, the accused's deputy at the time?
Yes. Mr. Brad was not on duty that night, but he rang me to say that Terry had taken an overdose of his tofranil tablets and Miss Damon had gone with him to Fulchester General. Too late was the cry.
So what did you do?
Well, I went round to Glenivert House as quickly as I could. The Foundation is a family, and every member of that family rallies round in time of crisis. Mr. Brad was there, and gradually I began to piece together what had happened. Terry had gone to Miss Damon's room and found the key to the medicine cabinet.
And Miss Damon lived on the premises, did she?
Yes, my lord, both she and Mr. Brad did.
And when did you see the accused?
About an hour later, she returned from the hospital with the news that Terry was dead.
And did you speak to the accused about her own role in the proceedings?
Obviously.
What did you say to her?
I told her I was holding her responsible.
Did you say why?
Yes. At the time that Terry should have been receiving his medication from her, Miss Damon was attending a union meeting. She refused to interrupt it.
What union was this?
small organisation calling itself the British Association of Social Helpers. Miss Damon had recently become a member and was engaged in trying to recruit staff members to its ranks.
And what had the union meeting been about?
Miss Damon had called the meeting to discuss Mr. Bradd's suspension. I had had cause earlier in the week to suspend Mr. Brad.
Why, Miss Eubank?
One of the other boarders had alleged having an unnatural relationship with Mr. Brad, my lord.
You mean a homosexual relationship?
I'm afraid I do, my lord. As soon as I had investigated the affair, the matter, I realized the allegations were groundless and Mr. Brad was immediately reinstated.
And what did the accused say when you told her that you were holding her responsible?
She said that as far as she was concerned, Mr. Brad had not been suspended, and therefore it was he who should have supervised Terry's medication. When I questioned her further, she refused to say anything without a fellow union member being present.
Now, Mr. Brad, I take it, wasn't a member.
He was not.
Did you say anything further to the accused that night, Miss Eubank?
Yes. I told her quite simply that if she had not neglected her duty, Terry Selwyn would still be alive.
Thank you, Miss Eubank.
Miss Eubank, you say that at the time of Terry Selwyn's overdose, Miss Damon was attending a union meeting at Glenivett House.
She was.
And I believe the meeting was being held in a building called the Bath House.
It was.
What is this Bath House exactly?
I should have thought the term spoke for itself. It's a small building at the ends of the grounds containing baths and water closets. It dates from the time when Glenivett House was still a school.
Is it used at all nowadays?
Sometimes when the house is very full, the plumbing is connected.
And how far is it from the house itself?
100 yards, perhaps?
Rather an odd place to hold a meeting, isn't it?
Is it?
Don't you think so? When there were all these volatile personalities running around in the house itself needing constant supervision?
That is rather oversimplifying things. Once the boarders had completed their house duties, they were more or less free to do as they pleased in the evening. In fact, I believe Terry and a friend were the only boarders in the house at that time. The others had all gone to the mop. That's the Fulchester Midsummer Fair, my lord, on the common.
Miss Eubank, weren't you the cause of the union meeting being held in the Bath House?
What do you mean?
Well, when you first heard about Miss Damon's union activities, didn't you forbid her to hold meetings in the house itself? And when she asked where could she have them in that case, didn't you reply, you can have them in the toilets. That's all they're fit for. Miss Eubank.
I don't recall my exact words, but if I said anything along those lines, it would have been laughingly, as a joke.
As a joke?
Yes.
Please tell us when to laugh, Miss Eubank. You've made it clear that initially you were satisfied with Miss Damon's work for the Foundation. Was there a time when you became dissatisfied, before June the 16th, that is?
Yes, I began to have my doubts.
Why? Because Miss Damon became involved with the union?
Not at all. There were several things, little things to start with.
What sort of things?
Well, for instance, she would let the boarders stay up until all hours, and once she took them to the cinema to a late-night screening of some Marx Brothers films.
Surely a minor transgression.
Oh, on the face of it, perhaps. But when preparing impressionable minds for the outside world, a line has to be drawn between what is and what is not acceptable behaviour. It was a line which Miss Damon continually overstepped.
And what was so unacceptable about this trip to the kinema, as you call it?
I call it the kinema because the kinema is what it is called, the kinema cinema. It's a small place, my lord, up the Mill Road, much frequented, I'm told, by students from the Technical College.
I see.
Really, Mr. Bloom, I'm not that out of touch.
Sorry, Miss Eubank, that isn't what I was implying.
I think it was.
I do assure you it was not.
Miss Eubank, please let Mr. Bloom get on. He has apologized once.
I'm sorry, my lord.
Anyway, Miss Damon took the boarders to the Kinema Cinema to see some Marx Brothers films. Now, What was there about this, Miss Eubank, that you took exception to? The lateness of the hour or the type of films they were?
A mixture of both. Well, late to bed means late to rise, and that never did anyone any good. But the films were not suitable material for the boarders to see.
How do you know? Have you ever seen any Marx Brothers films, Miss Eubank?
No.
So, how can you positively say that the exposure of Miss Damon's charges to this subversive material had any damaging effect on them?
The day after the visit to the kinema, I found all 7 boarders jammed into a broom cupboard. It was something suggested by one of the films.
How did you come to find them in there, Miss Eubank?
I opened the door. They all fell out.
Yes, I can just picture it. But what I meant was, why look in the broom cupboard in the first place? Why were you round at Glenivett House?
For a counselling session. A counselling session is where the entire community meets to discuss its problems. It's a very useful form of therapy.
I see. Was it normal for you to conduct counselling sessions by going round looking in broom cupboards?
Of course not. I was looking for the boarders. Under Miss Damon's wardenship, they had become a dangerously mutinous crew.
How often are the sessions?
Once or sometimes twice a week, depending on the mood of the house. We need more than one when things are fraught.
Miss Damon wasn't all that keen on counselling sessions, though, was she, Miss Eubank?
No, she saw no use for them, typically.
Did you and she disagree over other aspects of Foundation policy?
I wouldn't call it disagreement. I would call it a straightforward flouting of regulations on Miss Damon's part.
Such as?
Rules regarding boarders' medication.
Was June 16th the first instance of this?
No, my lord, it seemed that Miss Damon was in the habit of giving the boarders the key and letting them take their own drugs. When I found out about it, I reprimanded her, of course.
And how did you find out about it?
I was informed of it by Mr. Brad, my lord. Naturally, he was very worried that Miss Damon was letting things slip in such a vital area.
When was this reprimand delivered? At a counselling session?
No, afterwards, privately.
And what was Miss Damon's reaction?
Oh, that was when she suggested that the counselling sessions were worthless and ought to be discontinued.
Yes. Yes, I see. Yes, Mr. Bloom.
My client, you see, Miss Eubank, takes the view that this was just the sort of argument that should have taken place during a counselling session. It concerned the crucial issue of medication, something involving every member of the House, a policy that could, if necessary, have been changed by common consent of the community after just the sort of open discussion that you were advocating.
I must repeat, I no longer had complete confidence in Miss Damon's abilities. To let that be known through the House could have proved disastrous.
And this lack of confidence coincided with Miss Damon's union activities, didn't it?
It did not.
Mr. Bloom, I think we're in danger of going round in circles here.
I think we are, my lord. Let me put it to you as succinctly as I can, Miss Eubank. I suggest that her joining the union was the one cause that changed your mind about Miss Damon from that time in March when, to quote your evidence, you saw no reason not to promote her to the position of warden. It's nothing to do with the Marx Brothers films. You were beginning to look on Miss Damon as a threat, weren't you, Miss Eubank?
Tommy, rot.
Let's try and look at it through your eyes. Here was one of your staff daring to involve herself in an organization outside your direct control.
Fiddlesticks.
The only place that she could turn as a means of protection against your interference. Because, Miss Eubank, I suggest that you couldn't bear to see Miss Damon flourishing. She'd taken over from you at Glenivett House. She'd stayed there a year. She'd built up a good and trusting relationship with the boarders.
Oh, yes, such a good relationship that she let one of them die because she couldn't be bothered to look after him properly. I'm sorry, Mr. Bloom, if that's what you think when your client has been leading you up the garden path. Miss Damon was so busy looking after her own affairs that she carelessly ignored the dependent relationship that Terry Selwyn had with her.
How long before the death of Terry Selwyn had Des Brad been suspended, Miss Eubank?
Let me see. June the 16th was a Friday, wasn't it? About the Wednesday, I think.
And what was Miss Damon's reaction to the suspension?
I really couldn't say. I had no contact with the accused until the time of Terry's trouble. That, of course, took precedence.
Are you saying that Miss Damon didn't know about the suspension of her own deputy?
Of course I'm not saying that. She must have known, otherwise why call a union meeting about it? Oh, how ridiculous.
But at any rate, Miss Eubank, you didn't tell her.
I assumed Mr. Brad would. I left it to his discretion how public to make his suspension before he was notified of it in writing.
And when was Mr. Brad informed in writing?
I delivered the letter personally.
When?
On the evening of the 16th.
When you went round to Glenivett House after Terry Selwyn's overdose?
Yes. I gave Mr. Brad the letter. We talked about the allegations. I established his innocence and withdrew the letter of suspension.
So, in fact, you were talking about homosexual relationships with Mr. Brad while Terry Selwyn was lying, dying.
That is a most improper remark, Mr. Bloom. I had only a limited amount of time at my disposal. Terry was in hospital. There was nothing I could do for him.
Let us consider the intolerable position Miss Damon finds herself in on June the 16th. There she is, an extremely attractive young woman, living in close proximity to half a dozen or more volatile personalities, male. She's completely under the director's thumb, and then out of the blue comes this highly ambiguous suspension.
Just a minute, I've heard enough of this.
Please, let me finish.
I will not let you finish. I've never had to listen to such wicked nonsense in my life. Miss Damon was never under my thumb, as you put it. That is just not the sort of establishment that I run.
Quite frankly, Miss Eubank, from what we've heard so far, I think you'd be singularly ill-equipped to run a bath, let alone a hostel for the psychologically disturbed.
There is no need for that, Mr. Bloom.
I'm sorry, my lord. I just felt a sudden onrush of sympathy from Miss Damon.
Yes, well, we mustn't let our personal relationships get in the way, must we? So just calm down.
I beg your pardon?
Now, are there any more questions you want to ask me? If so, fire away.
Miss Eubank, how easy was it to start the Foundation House? Presumably you needed a license from the local authority.
Yes, and I still do. It's renewable annually.
And do you rely on this same local authority to refer people to one or other of your houses?
Yes, they come via the Social Services Department.
And it's to the local authority that you also look for the money to finance somebody's stay at a Foundation House, is that right?
It is.
I suggest that the local authority money was uppermost in your mind when the homosexual allegations were made against Mr. Brad. I suggest that you didn't dare let any breath of scandal reach official ears in case your supply of boarders and hence your revenue was cut off. I suggest that you quite spuriously suspended Mr. Brad until the kerfuffle died down, keeping your options open by telling no one about the suspension but Mr. Brad himself, which meant, of course, that Miss Damon had no idea whether or not she was left in sole charge of the boarders. She discussed it with Mr. Brad, and she was discussing it still when Terry Selwyn took his fatal overdose. I put it to you, Miss Eubank, that Terry Selwyn's life was sacrificed in the interests of your reputation. Just as you're trying to lay all the blame for it at Miss Damon's door right now. When did you write out that letter of suspension, Miss Eubank? Was it when you got the phone call from Des Brad telling you about the overdose?
Mr. Bloom, I have stood here listening to my life's work being constantly maligned. Now you attack my reputation. I think I can best answer your disgraceful suggestions by quoting to you some lines from Othello by Will Shakespeare, of which you are clearly ignorant. They are these: good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing, 'twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he who filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him and makes me poor indeed.
I think we'd better adjourn for a while. Look after Miss Eubank, will you?
Okay.
Join us again tomorrow when the case of the Queen against Damon will be resumed in the Crown Court. Anna Damon is accused of manslaughter. It's alleged that Terry Selwyn, an inmate at the halfway house where Damon was warden, died as a result of her neglect. During the evidence of Gudrun Eubank, director of the Fulchester Foundation, which runs the houses, much has been made of the status of Des Brad, Damon's deputy at the time. Eubank insists that he was suspended from duty, thus leaving Damon in sole charge of the house. The defense disputes this, and now Des Brad himself is giving evidence for the prosecution.
I am, sir.
And what position do you hold in the Fulchester Foundation, Mr. Brad?
I'm warden of the Mona Gardens house.
And what were you at the time of Terry Selwyn's death on the 16th of June, 1978?
Afraid I can only give you a qualified answer to that one, Mr. Rockwell. I was deputy warden at Glenivett House, but temporarily suspended.
Ah, I see. And where were you at approximately 7:30 that evening?
In the bathhouse at the bottom of the garden. I was sitting in on a branch meeting of the British Association of Social Helpers. BASH. That's what they like to call themselves.
Yes. You say sitting in on. Were you, or had you ever been, a member of that union?
No way. Anna Damon, the accused, kept on trying to persuade me, but I resisted.
And what was this meeting about? Who was present?
Well, there was me, the accused, the union organizer, and a little girl who was deputy at Mona Gardens, but she didn't stay with the foundation long. 4 of us. What was it about? My suspension. I thought that I ought to be there, seeing it was me they were talking about.
What was your attitude to the union, Mr. Brad?
Well, in a small institution like the foundation, these industrial disputes tend to be disruptive and hence very bad for the boarders.
Did you try and put that point of view at the meeting on June the 16th?
Sure.
Now, we heard from Miss Eubank that you'd been suspended 2 days before Terry Selwyn's death after one of the other boarders had alleged having a homosexual relationship with you.
Yeah, nothing to it, of course. It was soon cleared up.
Yes, I see. Now, Mr. Brad, before moving to the foundation, I believe you had qualified as a social worker, and indeed you were employed by the Fulchester Social Services Department.
Right.
So when you went to Glenivett House, what was your opinion, your professional opinion of the deceased, Terry Selwyn?
Terry, oh, straightforward Mandy.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rockwell. That's my shorthand for manic depressive, my lord. A lot of extreme ups and downs. The only thing was he was a good bit older than most of the others, and he'd been at Glenivett House a bit longer, and he tended to cling on to Miss Damon and react to whatever sort of mood she was in. He needed careful handling.
Mm-hmm. Now, at 7:30 on June 16th, you were sitting in on the BASH meeting held in the bathhouse. Please, could you describe what happened, Mr. Brad?
Well, the others were chuntering on about this and that, and I was just sat listening. Terry came in. Miss Damon said, "Go away, we're busy," or something like that. Terry reminded her that it was time to give him his drugs. He was on a course of tofranil tablets. Miss Damon said that I should do it. Well, of course I couldn't. I was suspended, and I said so. Miss Damon said this was the ideal time to put one over on Miss Eubank, and anyway, was I a man or a mouse? Well, I don't need to tell you what my answer to that one was. Anyway, I was adamant, she was too, and said no way was she going to do it. And in the end, Terry just gave up and left. As he was leaving, Miss Damon called after him, "You know where the key is."
You know where the key is? Did you take that to mean the key to the medicine cabinet?
Yeah. She kept it in her room. About half an hour later, the union meeting broke up, and Miss Damon and I went back to the house. Later on, Miss Damon came and fetched me from my room. She'd found Terry lying on her bed unconscious. He'd swallowed almost the whole bottle. Anyway, there was a bit of a row as to who should call the ambulance. She didn't even seem to want to do that. In the end, I went outside to see if I could stop a car, but then the ambulance came and she went with him. I called Miss Eubank and told her what had gone off.
And before this happened, did you appreciate that Terry Selwyn had suicidal tendencies?
No. I'd only been there a few weeks and Miss Damon hadn't told me. I might say that if I'd known then that he was suicidal, I wouldn't have let him within a mile of that cabinet, whether I was suspended or not.
Thank you, Mr. Brad.
Forgive me for asking this, Mr. Brad, but you aren't homosexual, are you?
No.
At the time of the suspension, were you to be seen in Fulchester in the company of women?
Oh, sure, not just in Fulchester itself, but in several outlying areas as well. No way am I gay.
Wouldn't it be true to say, Mr. Brad, that you are to some extent Miss Eubank's protege? I mean, it must have been quite a feather in her cap to woo you away from Fulchester Social Services, wasn't it?
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, consider your progress, Mr. Brad. Warden in charge of a house of, shall we say, mature adults inside 6 months. And coming so soon after a potentially damaging suspension. It took Miss Damon twice as long to reach that position.
Yeah, well, you can deduce what you like from that.
Thank you, I will. What I find odd is that Miss Eubank chose to suspend someone as clearly heterosexual as yourself. And not only that, but chose to keep that suspension secret from everyone but you and herself.
Mr. Bloom, according to the evidence we've heard so far, your client was also informed.
Yes, my lord, but not by Miss Eubank. But, Mr. Brad, let me suggest a possible reason for this secret suspension. Isn't it true that Miss Eubank had persuaded you to spy on Miss Damon while you were at Glenivett House?
No, it isn't true.
I put it to you that it is. I put it to you that as soon as Miss Eubank got wind of Miss Damon's union activities, she let you know that it would be in your own interest to report back everything that Miss Damon did.
No, that isn't true either.
No? Well, perhaps you can give us your opinion, your professional opinion, Mr. Brad, of the way in which Miss Damon executed her duties.
Well, basically, I found that she couldn't handle the sick.
When did that discovery date from?
As soon as I got there. Before I actually took up residence at the house, Miss Damon had had a few days on her own with the boarders. Well, you should have seen the state of the place. She'd really let them overrun it, you know, throwing their breakfast at each other, baked beans all over the floor, you know.
Yes. Were your doubts about Miss Damon based on anything more fundamental than baked beans, or is that it, professionally speaking?
Of course there was more to it than that. I was very worried about her attitude towards the medication policy. Very worried indeed. She seemed to think it was all right to let the boarders get their own drugs from the cabinet. Now, I'm a stickler. I don't mind saying it. I insisted on supervising them personally as per what it said in the handbook.
And did you report this difference of opinion to Miss Eubank?
It wasn't a difference of opinion. It was a case of me following the rules and her not. Anyway, yes, I did report it, but that's a different thing to spying.
Didn't you, in fact, suggest that Miss Damon should be sacked?
No.
I put it to you that you did.
No. I may have suggested a restructuring of her job function, but nothing stronger than that. I saw no kudos in being persecutory.
Please speak in English, Mr. Brad.
And it was then, wasn't it, Mr. Brad, that Miss Eubank suggested that you step up your surveillance, keeping tabs on all Miss Damon's activities?
No.
In fact, having had this experience of Miss Eubank's Gestapo-like tactics, you actually began to sympathize with Miss Damon and with the union's efforts to improve foundation conditions, right, Mr. Brad?
Wrong.
To such an extent that you were on the verge of throwing in your lot with the BASH when this homosexual allegation came along.
Bullshit.
The ideal
Rubbish.
means by which Miss Eubank could blackmail you. Sever your union connections, and she would forget about the suspension.
Is this a social welfare organization we're discussing still?
I'm afraid it is, my lord.
Not the one I work for.
So, not knowing which way to turn, Mr. Brad, you consulted Miss Damon.
No.
She called an emergency meeting of the BASH. You, indeed all of you gathered at the bathhouse, were of the opinion that the suspension was not valid.
No.
And so, when the time came to give Terry Selwyn his drugs, as far as everyone else was concerned, it was business as usual. And therefore your job, Mr. Brad, being on duty to administer them.
It wasn't my job, it was hers.
Of course, you, Mr. Brad, being the careerist that you are, you were in something of a quandary. If you did your job, it would mean defying Miss Eubank. So you dilly-dallied with tragic results. And that's really the way it happened, isn't it, Mr. Brad?
That is not the way it happened at all. I was suspended. It was as simple as that. Miss Eubank was quite right to suspend me. Now, since arriving at Mona Gardens, I've realized just how much Miss Eubank has achieved and what a lot she's had to put up with. Well, it beats me how she manages to cope with all the admin as well as looking after the sick, but cope she does. I think she's a marvel.
Oh, I wouldn't argue with that at all, Mr. Brad.
You are Deed Pole,
Affirmative.
and you are currently a boarder at Glenivert House.
That's a very unusual name.
Glenivert.
No, your own name, Deed Pole.
It's nice, isn't it? Well, I didn't like the one I've got. So down I go to Somerset House. Do you want to change it by Deed Pole, they said. Hey, I thought, that sounds all right. That's the name I'll take. Deed Pole. Most people call me Deedie.
What, if I may ask, was your name before you changed it?
Somerset House, my lord.
Mr. Pole, would you say that you were a particular friend of Terry Selwyn?
Oh, he was a real pal. He used to like my cigarettes. Hello, team.
Just a straightforward yes will suffice, Mr. Pole. Don't get carried away.
I'm sorry, my lord. It must be my hot Corsican blood.
Well, I wouldn't let it get you into any trouble. This is a very serious matter.
Were you with Terry Selwyn on the night of his death?
Yes.
And at approximately 7:30 that night, did you accompany Terry Selwyn to the bathhouse?
Yes.
Will you please tell the court what happened?
Well, they were all in there, drinking screwdrivers.
Who were?
Damon and the militants. The bash house, I used to call it. Good day. Well, Terry and I wanted to go to the Midsummer Mop down on the Common. Harmless nutter was having a quiet night out, you know what I mean? But he had to take his tablets first. And he went to get Damon to give them to him. She didn't want to know, though. Sent him away with his flea in his ear.
And what was Terry's reaction to that?
Pardon?
Control your witness, Mr. Rockwell, or I shall have to fine him for contempt.
I trust Mr. Pole will bear that in mind, my lord. What was Terry's reaction to being sent away?
He was sick as a pig. He had this big thing about Damon. Between you, me, and the gatepost, she was a bit of a PT, if you get my drift.
I'm afraid I don't, Mr. Pole.
Well, I think Mr. Pole means that the accused led Terry Selwyn on in a seductive manner.
Please confine your remarks to what actually happened, Mr. Pole.
What did Terry do after leaving the bathhouse?
We went to Damon's room.
Why did you both go?
Well, he went to get the key, and I borrowed some of her gear.
What sort of gear?
Her clothes?
What are you doing with Miss Damon's clothes?
She used to lend them to me. May it please the court, I am an effeminate homosexual. My life is one long round of wine, men, and song.
And what happened next, Mr. Pole?
Well, Terry found the key to the drugs cabinet.
Where did he find it?
On the dressing table.
Was it always kept there?
No, she used to leave it around all over the place. But when any of us wanted any of the stuff, you only had to ask. Please, miss, can I have some more? Yes, indeed. Just like that.
And what did Terry do then?
Well, he went to get the tablets, and I went to my room to put my face on. And then I shouted for Terry, but I didn't get any reply. So I assumed he'd gone to the fair. So I went to the fair. But when I got there, I didn't see any sign of Terry. And when I came back, there was this ambulance outside. Didn't she do well?
Thank you, Mr. Pole.
Mr. Pole, you say that Terry found the key to the medicine cabinet on Miss Damon's dressing table. That isn't exactly accurate, is it?
Pass.
Do you mean no?
Yes!
Let me put it another way, Mr. Pole. The key was on the dressing table, but only in the sense that it was in Miss Damon's handbag, which was on the dressing table. I suggest that it was you who found the key when you went to borrow Miss Damon's handbag together with some of her clothes.
Why should I borrow her handbag? I've got one of my own, honky-tonk.
I suggest that you were jealous of the relationship Terry had with Anna Damon.
Nice one. But you're wrong. Terry was never my boyfriend. Des Brad, now you're talking.
Then it was you, Mr. Pole, who alleged the affair that led to Mr. Brad's suspension.
I didn't allege having it. I had it over and over again. Des.
When you returned from the fair that night, and the ambulance had taken Terry and Miss Damon away, who was left at the house?
Just Des and me. Then Mother Superior turned up.
A Miss Eubank.
Damon used to call her that.
And what happened when the three of you were together?
Oh, we had a counselling session.
Was your relationship with Des Brad discussed, or his suspension?
I didn't even know he was suspended. Not a great talker in bed was ours, Des.
Mr. Pole, these allegations of yours are immaterial to the case, and the less we hear about them, the better.
So what did you discuss with Mr. Brad and Miss Eubank?
She wanted to know about Terry.
Were you with them until Miss Damon came back from hospital?
No, about 9:30 I went to watch television. I have to get my 8 hours, you know. They stayed talking.
And how much later did Miss Damon return?
About 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Pole.
Can I ask you something?
What's that?
Are you doing anything after the show?
Mr. Pole.
I don't wish to re-examine, my lord.
I don't know.
Take him down to the cells for the rest of the day, officer, will you?
Oh, hey, Coochie, come so I shall leave. Oh, good night, everybody.
That concludes the prosecution case, my lord.
In 1977, you answered the advertisement in the Times and applied to join the Fulchester Foundation.
Yes, at the time I was debating whether to go abroad again. But then I saw the ad and I thought, why not?
Wasn't there any more to your decision than that? Why not?
Not really. What I'm saying is, it was only after I'd been there a while that I really warmed to the job. Well, I stayed for over a year, and that's never happened to me before.
Miss Eubank has said that you showed a genuine concern for those in trouble.
Yeah, I've always been good at interviews.
How would you describe your relationship with Miss Eubank?
Perfectly amicable. At first, anyway. Goodwin had just moved into Mona Gardens and she was busy setting that up. We didn't see much of her over at Glenivert House.
But presumably in her absence you had the Foundation handbook to guide you.
That, yes, I suppose you could say so.
There would appear to be some irreverence in your tone, Miss Damon.
Very discerning of you, my lord. Yes, the handbook was a joke, really. We all thought the same.
Do you mean that other members of the Foundation staff thought it was a joke as well?
Certainly. You ought to look at it. So badly typed, for one thing. Half the time we couldn't tell if we were wardens or warders. Half the pages were falling out. Goodwin would come round and add bits when she felt like it. More important than that, though, it was the tone of it that was wrong. It was all don'ts and no do's.
So, what was your policy about using the handbook?
Well, we followed it when we could and didn't when we couldn't. Well, that's what it said anyway, more or less. Something about maximising initiative in one of the sections.
Now, when Miss Eubank promoted you to the position of warden of Glenivert House, she said that she went through the handbook with you step by step, is that right?
Yes, in as much as she said, is there anything you don't understand? And I said, I can't quite decipher that bit. That was all it was. I did know it already.
May Miss Damon be shown Exhibit 1? Is that the handbook that Miss Eubank gave you?
Yes.
Will you turn to the section that Miss Eubank read out to us? Medication is the responsibility of the house staff, and the warden or the deputy shall supervise a boarder's medication at all times.
What about it?
Did you discuss that with her?
No,
Why not?
because it wasn't there then.
What do you mean, Miss Damon?
What I mean is that that section wasn't there then. Goodwin must have stuck it in later.
How much later? After Terry Selwyn's death?
Probably. Very easily done, you know, a loose-leaf file like that. And Goodwin was quite capable of that sort of thing.
It's a very serious allegation to make, Miss Damon.
Well, I'm not exactly here for the good of my soul, am I?
Was there anything in the Foundation handbook about medication at the time that you were working there?
Yes, but I think what was there before Terry died must have been so ambiguous that Goodwin whipped it out and replaced it with that new section just so that I could be dropped in it.
Can you remember what the old section said about the issuing of drugs?
No, I'm afraid not now. As I said, well, after a while, we stopped paying attention to the handbook and played it by ear.
And what was your attitude to the medication? Mr. Brad and Miss Eubank have both said that you were in the habit of letting the boarders get their own. Is that true?
Sounds a bit bald put like that. What I did was let them have the key when it was time for their medication. Trust them to look after themselves and then give me back the key afterwards. That way they were given a greater sense of responsibility and I knew what they were doing. No one ever had the key without my knowing it, though. Not until Terry died, that is.
And did this policy of yours work?
Of course. It made a nice change for them to be treated like adults. And there were never any suicide attempts when I was in charge.
And what was Miss Eubank's reaction?
She told me off when she heard about it through the grapevine over there.
Mr. Brad.
Yeah.
When making her criticism, did Miss Eubank refer you to the handbook?
I don't think we could find it that morning. Sometimes it turned up in the garden, you know.
How did you feel about the reprimand?
I didn't take much notice. The thing is, Gudrun had been taking me to task for anything, everything, ever since she'd heard I'd joined Bash.
How long had you been a member of the union?
Just after I became warden.
And why did you join?
To try and get better working conditions. If I was going to stay with the foundation, I needed a place of my own, things like that. Of course, it was a mistake. I realise that now.
Why do you say that?
Well, if I hadn't joined, I doubt very much if I'd have been on trial for manslaughter. The last thing Gudrun wanted was the trade union movement coming into her precious foundation with its mucky boots on. Be like giving away the empire. So, she clamped down. We couldn't have meetings on the premises. Everything I did was suddenly all wrong. She even sent the plumbers in.
Mr. Brad?
Yeah, he was running back to Gudrun every verse end, telling her how I'd spent the petty cash on curtains, who had had to stay with me that night. She wanted to know the ins and outs of Meg's behind and how far from it.
I beg your pardon?
It would seem to be a phrase connoting extreme nosiness, my lord.
That's right, my mother used to say it a lot.
I see. Were you on good terms with your mother, Miss Damon?
Hello, what's this? The Puffin Book of Freud?
It won't help you to be rude, Miss Damon. I'm curious to know whether your feelings towards Miss Eubank were made the more rebellious because you felt that perhaps she was trying to run her houses more as homes in the domestic sense. We do know that Miss Eubank liked to think of the foundation as a family.
Yes, I'd already come to the conclusion that Gudrun treated us all like children because she hadn't got any of her own. But we learnt to live with that. What got up my nose was that while I had my hands full looking after the kids, all she did was maunder on about curtains.
What is all this about curtains?
I bought some for the recreation room, my lord, green velvet. Des Brad told Gudrun, and sure enough there was a memo from her, one of those predated ones she's so good at, reminding all staff that Glen Ivett furnishings were to conform with the furnishings at Mona Gardens. Well, I had to put the orange ones back up.
I really don't see what all this has to do with the welfare of disturbed adolescents.
Neither do I, my lord, thank you. It was all part of getting me to knuckle under. The better I was at my job, the worse it got for her. She wanted to remain Queen Bee. She couldn't bear the thought of anyone else getting too good.
Join us again tomorrow when the case of the Queen against Damon will be concluded in the Crown Court. Anna Damon has pleaded not guilty to a charge of manslaughter arising out of the death of Terry Selwyn from an overdose of drugs. At the time, Selwyn was resident in a halfway house belonging to the Fulchester Foundation. Damon was warden of the house, but she denies that she was on duty at the time, or that there was any coherent foundation policy about the issuing of drugs. Having given evidence, Damon is about to be cross-examined by counsel for the prosecution.
Miss Damon, do you recognize this as being the foundation handbook? In fact, the copy of the handbook that was in your possession when you were warden of Glen Ivett House?
Yes, it is.
And does it contain the rules on which you based your day-to-day running of the house in the absence of the director, Miss Eubank?
Wherever possible, yes.
What do you mean by wherever possible?
Well, two people, the warden and the deputy, weren't able physically to carry out everything mentioned there. That does go into some pretty trifling detail about looking after the boarders.
Trifling detail? Is that how you describe a section of the handbook that I'm looking at now, which is on a separate piece of paper, is illustrated with one or two rather strange drawings, and is entitled, What to Do If We Are Attacked by Flying Saucers from Moscow?
I put that in there.
Oh. Is that your own handiwork, Miss Damon?
I found it on a buzz. It was obviously produced by some weird sect.
And why did you put it into the Foundation handbook?
Just as a gag.
A joke?
Yes, my lord.
Didn't you perhaps intend it as an ironic comment on some of the rules in the handbook?
Not particularly.
Oh, well, I suggest that that's exactly what it was. I suggest that you were in the habit of making light of every aspect of the Foundation policy that Miss Eubank had worked at conscientiously for a period of over 10 years.
Not so.
Well, then let me turn to the front of the handbook, to the page entitled The 10 Foundation Commandments. In fact, there are 11, because at the bottom of the page someone has written number 11. Don't try slashing your wrists with an electric razor. It isn't worth the effort. Is that your handwriting, Miss Damon?
Yes, it is. Another joke, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm. Well, then it is your handwriting also, which has added a line to a poem which makes up section 73 of the handbook. I'd like to read this out. It's a poem by John Wesley, which goes thus. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. To which you have added, 'cause it's you that carries the can. Well, again, Miss Damon, this would appear to be more than a mere joke, but to betray a scurrilous attitude on your part, which, taken together with the undoubtedly poor taste of the one about the electric razor, would suggest that you were completely and indeed dangerously at odds with the aims of the Foundation.
I disagree. I think that rules like the 10 Foundation Commandments should be treated in as matter-of-fact a way as possible.
You equate matter-of-fact with light-heartedly.
Well, that was the way I ran my house, my lord.
Miss Damon, when you joined the Foundation, you agreed to abide by its rules, rules which are contained in the handbook. Well, you say you found difficulty in carrying some of them out. Did you discuss this with Miss Eubank at your briefing when you were promoted to warden?
I didn't see the need. I've been interpreting the rules for almost a year and had no complaints at all. When Des Brad joined, we went through the rules again and we agreed, both of us, that it just wasn't feasible to put all of them into practice. So please don't try and throw the handbook at me.
You don't like Mr. Brad very much, do you?
Not a lot, no.
Not even when he was working as your deputy?
Well, he was a bit too eager to please for my taste, which meant, of course, it wasn't long before he was Gudrun's stool pigeon.
Well, in view of this clear antipathy, why were you so quick to act on his behalf when it came to the question of his suspension?
Oh, I don't want to sound yucky, but it was a case of worker should stand by worker.
Even when that worker isn't a member of your union?
They said that. I didn't. Des was about to join us when all the Terry stuff came up.
Mm-hmm. What was your reaction, Miss Damon, when you heard that Mr. Brad was suspended?
Come on. I don't accept that he was.
So we can assume that that was your reaction?
If you like.
Well, why didn't? Why don't you accept it?
Well, for a start, I couldn't believe Gudrun would take anything Deedpole said at face value. Well, you heard him, would you? Unless she had an ulterior motive, like punishing Des for getting involved in Bash. And anyway, she hadn't condescended to tell me he was suspended.
Well, didn't Mr. Brad tell you?
Yes, but only when he was next due to come on duty.
Well, why didn't you contact Miss Eubank to confirm the fact of the suspension?
I was too busy. Des bowing out meant I had to work round the clock.
And why didn't you refer Mr. Brad to the grievance procedure mentioned in the handbook and appeal to the Foundation Board of Governors?
Well, Geriatrics Anonymous, don't make me laugh.
I don't find that a particularly illuminating or satisfactory answer, Miss Damon.
The only time we ever saw or heard of the board, my lord, was when they were wheeled out to put the rubber stamp on what Gudrun wanted.
Nevertheless, the procedure existed, yet you chose to ignore it and called a union meeting to discuss a plan of retaliatory action.
Yes, with the full cooperation of Des Brad. He was as worried as we were.
Well, now, let's turn to the Terry stuff, as you call it. Mr. Pole said that when he and Terry Selwyn arrived at the bathhouse, they all were drinking screwdrivers.
I heard.
Well, were you drinking screwdrivers?
Oh, what? Gudrun doesn't allow the demon drink, on the premises.
Will you answer the question, please? Were you drinking?
No. We were having a plenary meeting of Bash.
A plenary meeting?
One with all the members present, my lord.
All three of you?
Plus Des Brad.
Yes, and who you say was on the point of throwing in his lot with you when Terry Selwyn walked in?
Yes.
Yes, but in fact he didn't join you, did he? Mr. Brad very properly realised the folly of going against his employer and took no further part in the proceedings. You, in a fit of pique, tried to put him in the invidious position of having to administer Terry's drugs, and Mr. Brad quite rightly refused. You were too busy playing politics to carry out your responsibilities, and we all know the consequences. And that's what happened that night in the bathhouse, isn't it, Miss Damon?
Of course it isn't. I don't really like to spell it out, but it was Des Brad vacillating that caused Terry's death. That and Deed poll finding the key.
Oh, but didn't you say to Terry you know where the key is as you
I
left the
did
bathhouse?
not. I never said that.
Oh, Mr. Brad says that you did. And Mr. Pole says that the boarders had easy access to the key because you were in the habit of leaving it lying around.
One yes man and one psychotic. Nice friends you've got.
How do you define psychotic, Miss Damon?
Somebody who's out of touch with reality. No offence.
And that's your qualified, professional view, is it, of Mr. Pole?
All right, you don't have to be a hen to know a bad egg. God, I'm beginning to sound like Gudrun now. You see what the Foundation's done to me.
Well, at any rate, Terry Selwyn and Mr. Pole went to your room, found the key to the medicine cabinet on your dressing table, where you'd left it, as Mr. Pole said, putting temptation in the boarder's way.
No, I didn't. I was the only one who knew where the key was, to put temptation out of the boarder's way.
Well, then how then do you suppose Terry came to get the key?
Well, Deed Poll must have found it.
In your handbag?
Yes.
Do you agree that Terry Selwyn should not have been allowed access to
Not
drugs?
without my knowing it, no.
So what did you expect to happen when Terry came to you that night for his medication and you refused to break off from the meeting?
Nothing. I wasn't to know Deed Poll would go looking in my handbag.
I see. You often used to lend Mr. Pole your clothes, did you, Miss Damon?
Sometimes. I didn't see any harm in it. In fact, I thought it might even help poor Deedy to find himself.
And so that sad, confused creature is the result of your therapy, is he?
He was your witness, Mr. Rockwell. Are you trying to discredit him now? You can't have it both ways, you know.
So what happened then? I mean, did he come and ask when he wanted to borrow your clothes?
Usually.
Oh, not always. So sometimes he would just go to your room and help himself, would he?
Once or twice. He knew I didn't like it, though.
And would he perhaps go through your handbag, perhaps to try on your makeup?
Well, he could have done.
Which is where you kept the key to the medicine cabinet.
On that night, yes. I tried to keep it moving about a bit so that no one but me would know where it was. I'd hardly call that leaving it lying around.
When Terry came to see you that night, did he seem particularly stable?
Well, it's all relative, isn't it? It seemed quite normal.
Yes, but he did find himself in a confusing situation, didn't he? Confusing because of the conflicting policies adopted by yourself and Mr. Brad. Mr. Brad, who obeyed the rules of the Foundation and insisted on strict personal supervision, while you, Miss Damon, allowed Terry to help himself. Do you find it surprising that, under stress, having been rejected in the bathhouse, Terry should lose his head completely and take an overdose?
That's not my fault. Terry knew how many tablets to take.
Oh, so you do accept that it wasn't accidental? That Terry took too many tablets as a deliberate gesture to attract your attention?
Not necessarily. How do I know what was on his mind?
Well, why else should he take the tablet and then go and lie on your bed? The bed, Miss Damon, where you were wont to entertain your lovers.
You what?
Well, you said in your evidence that Mr. Brad went running back to Miss Eubank, telling her who you'd had to stay with you that night. Doesn't that imply men,
Yes.
Miss Damon?
It does. But there were girlfriends as well, you know, by which I mean old mates from university. I even had my mother up to stay once. Make something of that.
But you did sometimes have men staying with you for the night.
Of course. Glen Ivett House wasn't a convent, even though that was what Gudrun would have liked, I think.
Well, what effect do you suppose that sort of thing would have on someone who was as emotionally attached to you as Terry Selwyn obviously was?
I see what you're getting at. But the fact is, I never gave Terry any encouragement in that way. That was one of the reasons why Bash was campaigning for better accommodation. Privacy. That's what we needed. Everyone agreed about that. Even Des Brad. I mean, look what happened to him. For all anybody knew, he could have been having an affair with Deed Poll, seeing as they were both almost living in the same room.
Meaning, surely, that Miss Eubank had no option but to suspend Mr. Brad pending investigation.
Not at all. I was being metaphorical. The allegation was completely fatuous. Everyone knew that.
Well, if you were so insistent that Mr. Brad should not regard himself as suspended that evening, why did you go with Terry Selwyn to the hospital? Surely that was Mr. Brad's duty as well, if we're to believe your side of the story.
That's really pretty moronic, you know. I mean, at the time, the rights and wrongs of the situation didn't matter. I just wanted to get Terry seen to as soon as possible.
It's half an hour too late, as it turned out, thanks to the union meeting.
I wasn't the only one at the meeting, you know. Des Brad stayed till the end as well.
Well, why shouldn't he? He had nothing else to do, being suspended. If you were so keen to save Terry's life, why did you argue with Mr. Brad as to who should call the ambulance?
I don't know. Perhaps I haven't got a 2p or something. The Glen Ivett House phone is a coin box, needless to say.
999 calls don't cost anything, Miss Damon.
Oh, yes. Well, I can't remember. I was under quite a strain, you know. I just found somebody in a coma lying on my bed.
Yes, Miss Damon, I suggest that you were overcome with guilt when you saw Terry and panicked. And then later, when you came to your senses and realized how bad it looked for you, you did what you could to make amends. But of course, by then, the damage had been done. I put it to you, Miss Damon, that Terry Selwyn's death was the logical outcome of your persistent rebellion against Miss Eubank's authority. So keen were you to rule the roost yourself, and that you tried to use the unfortunate Mr. Brad and the even more unfortunate Terry Selwyn as a lever against Miss Eubank, hiding your ambition under the respectable facade of union activity. Oh. But even worse than this, you ignored the Foundation regulations in a flagrant and calculated way that was bound to end in tragedy. You were warned against this by your employer and your deputy, but you willfully refused to see it until it was too late. Miss Damon, I put it to you that you are criminally responsible for the death of Terry Selwyn.
All right, I admit it. You've done it again, Perry. What a foolish, foolish woman I've been.
Miss Damon...
She's got you at it, hasn't she? All of you. Dancing to her tune. I mean, what chance have I got?
Mr. Rayworth, on the 16th of June, 1978, were you branch officer of the British Association of Social Helpers?
Yes, I was.
And were you also once employed by the Fulchester Foundation?
Yes, I was the last warden at Glen Ivory House before Anna Damon.
That would mean that she was your deputy for some months.
Yes.
Will you tell the court your impressions of the Foundation and of Miss Damon in particular?
Well, it's funny, really. I got fed up with work in there, but Anna seemed to thrive on it. She obviously took to looking after the kids, and the kids took to her. She really made a go of things, but I just lost interest.
Why did you become disenchanted with the Foundation, Mr. Rayworth?
Well, it was down to old Eubank, wasn't it? I think when she moved into Mona Gardens, she must have thought that Glen Ivory would just fall apart if she didn't keep a tight grip on things. So she started whacking off all these memos, coming around updating the handbook when it suited her, just undoing everything we were trying to do. So I thought, well, this isn't for me, I'm off.
When you left in March 1978, were you consulted by Miss Eubank about the appointment of a new warden?
Yes, she asked me if I thought Anna was suitable. I said yes, of course.
And what, in your opinion, made Miss Damon such a good candidate?
Well, by sticking it out, for one thing. What the borders needed was stability. People they could get attached to. Well, they could hardly do that with the staff chopping and changing all the time. But most of them reacted to her the same way I did and left. Anna was there a year or more, which I think is still a record.
Now, why would you say that your union needed to involve itself in the Foundation's affairs?
Well, protection. To protect the staff against just the sort of mess they're in now. Mainly it was to do with trying to get higher wages. I mean, 30 quid a week.
How would you say that Miss Damon looked on the union?
Well, she thought, and quite rightly, that if we could improve staff conditions, it would encourage people to stay on longer, which would make life better for the boarders.
Would you say that Miss Damon joined the union as a way of sabotaging the work that Miss Eubank was trying to do?
No, not at all. As far as I'm concerned, Anna's always had the interests of the Foundation at heart, in whatever she did. I feel I ought to mention that if she's acquitted, and I trust she will be, Anna Damon has asked that the BASH apply for an industrial tribunal to try and get her job back. So you see, even after all this, she's still committed to the aims of the Foundation, if not to the person who's running it.
Please, describe the events of the 16th of June as you experienced them, Mr. Rayworth.
Well, I'd had a phone call from Anna the day before, telling me about Des Brad's so-called suspension. She was in a bit of a state, as she well might be. So she asked me to convene an emergency plenary meeting of the BASH. I was glad to, and we had it the following evening. Des Brad was there as well.
And what was Mr. Brad's attitude?
Well, he was very worried. Since he had nothing in writing, he wasn't sure whether he was suspended or not.
And what was your advice?
Well, that he should disregard the suspension until the union had made representations to the Foundation executive, Gudrun Eubank.
Were you all agreed on this?
Oh, yeah.
Was this before or after Terry Selwyn had come in to ask for his drugs?
Before. I wasn't present at the time of the actual incident.
Why not?
I'd left and gone home.
In the middle of such an important meeting?
Well, I wanted to get back to watch the World Cup.
June the 16th? I didn't know there was any football that night.
There weren't, my lord, but I didn't know that until I got home.
I see. Mr. Bloom, I believe Mr. Brad said there was another member of the staff, the Foundation staff, present in the bathhouse at that time.
Indeed there was, my lord.
Is he or she to be called?
She, my lord. She left the foundation, went to work on an oil rig. I'm afraid it hasn't been possible to contact her.
Yes, well, carry on, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, my lord. Mr. Rayworth, when you say that you were all agreed that Mr. Brad should disregard his suspension at that time, does that include Mr. Brad himself?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Rayworth.
You say you left what his lordship so rightly called an important meeting because you wanted to get home in order to watch the World Cup. Well, that's rather an odd sense of priorities, isn't it, Mr. Rayworth? Football before your union duties?
I don't see that. As far as I was concerned, the matter had been settled for the time being.
Oh, and yet we've heard how the meeting continued for at least half an hour after Terry Selwyn came in, by which time you were already long gone. That suggests there was still plenty to talk about.
Yeah, Terry, obviously, but I wasn't to know that. Anyway, I live miles the other side of Fulchester.
Well, in that case, why didn't you stay on till the end of the meeting and then watch the television at Glenivett House?
I thought it best not to.
Oh? Why not?
Well, Gudrun Newbank had threatened to set the police on me if she ever found me on the premises again.
Really? Have you any idea why Miss Eubank should consider such extreme measures? Could that perhaps have been anything to do with your union work?
Well, we all know what she thinks about the BASH, don't we?
Did you join the union before or after leaving the foundation, Mr. Rayworth?
Shortly after.
And were you on good terms with Miss Eubank when you left?
Yeah.
And did you move to another job in the field of social work?
No, I was a van driver with Hammond Transport. Then they laid me off.
Ah. You're still unemployed?
Yeah.
And have you since tried to get back into social work?
Of course.
But with no success?
No.
Well, to what do you attribute this, Mr. Rayworth? I mean, surely it can't be a lack of competence or dedication on your part. I mean, here you are putting in all these man-hours on behalf of your union.
You must know, it's because I've worked for the Fulchester Foundation. You wouldn't believe what a bad reputation it's got among local authorities. It's a dirty word. Look, getting a good reference from her is like getting a bad reference from anybody else.
Very frustrating, I'm sure. Have you ever tried to let off steam about this sorry situation?
What do you mean?
Well, isn't it true, Mr. Rayworth, that ever since parting company with the Foundation, you've been writing letters to the Fulchester Gazette, which are printed under the pseudonym Pro Bono Publico?
Yes, Lord.
And isn't it also true that these letters are, in fact, thinly veiled attacks on what Miss Eubank and the Foundation stand for?
Look, I think the pseudonym should tell you what I'm about. For the public good. I think society ought to be put in the picture about the sort of dustbins it's consigning its sick minds to.
Well, perhaps it should, Mr. Rayworth, but hardly by someone like you, who has nothing better to do than to grind his own personal axe. Let's face it, Mr. Rayworth, you have come here not to tell the truth, but merely to give evidence against Miss Eubank. Well, I've no further questions for you, except to ask you if you're really surprised that Miss Eubank should feel the need to resort to the police to prevent you from stirring things up even further.
The charge is one of involuntary manslaughter, a death brought about not intentionally, but as a result of neglect. What the Crown has to prove is that the accused, Anna Damon, was under a duty of caring for Terry Selwyn, and that there was a breach of that duty in such circumstances that the accused may properly be described as reckless, in that she was indifferent to an obvious danger to health, or that she foresaw the risk and determined nevertheless to run that risk. It's plain that the accused was under a duty of caring for Terry Selwyn. She was the warden. Questions you must ask in this connection are, where had the accused left the key that night? On the dressing table? In her handbag? Whichever it was it somewhere where she foresaw that the boarders would or might find it? Did they know where she kept it? Did she know that they knew? Now, let me warn you about certain matters that you're not here to decide. You're not here to make judgments on the Fulchester Foundation. You may be very concerned about what happened to Terry Selwyn. You may think that however stretched our social services are, however relieved they may be to have these unfortunate youngsters taken off their hands, There is still a very real danger that the cult of the amateur can be taken too far. But that is not what you're here to decide. What you have to decide is whether or not the accused is guilty of manslaughter. Now, will the jury now retire, elect a foreman, and consider your verdict?
All stand.
Will the foreman please stand? Just answer the question yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the accused guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Very well, Miss Damon, you are free to go. You may think it sensible to give further consideration to your proposal to apply to an industrial court for reinstatement in your job. It may not be in anyone's interests.
All stand.
You can join us again when our cameras return to bring you another case in the Crown Court.